that we are all recovered from the festivities in the UK, and a reminder that the US report is back this week on Friday.
Friday night. Yeah.
It's
what
time to check
time?
in. 8 p.m.
8
It's
p.m. So what time after your show on 7?
After
Okay,
Rita
good.
Penny.
Excellent.
But
Good.
now it's time to check in and see how things are going in Britain's most famous former colonies. Mr. President?
They say we're not going to increase the debt that every president has done for the last 6 million years here. Never hadn't done anything but that.
How many years?
Yes, 6 million years. 6 million years, Rita. Yes, there was Joe Biden muttering his way through a discussion about what to do about the debt ceiling in the United States. A question, the answer to which is, if you're a Democrat, is simply raise it. I mean, just loading up the federal government with more liabilities and pumping more money into the economy, what could go wrong, right? But in that same talk, Joe Biden also dropped a bombshell that he was going to hold a major media conference.
I think we've got a lot of work to do. I'm doing a major press conference this afternoon, so I love you all, but I'd like to ask you to leave so we can get down to business.
Now, that would have been huge news because it's been months since he's done a major news conference, but it turns out he was just confused. As New York Times White House correspondent Katie Rogers tweeted later, at ease. The president was referring to his MSNBC interview tonight when he said he was delivering a major press conference this afternoon, per two people familiar with the situation. And that interview went, well, about as you would expect.
For example, you're going to be able to get an Amtrak, and instead of going through the tunnel of Baltimore at 30 miles an hour because nothing's been done under the Chesapeake Bay under the Baltimore River, the Baltimore area for 80 years. They're going to be able to go to 100 miles an hour. They're going to see more. They're going to see railroads going from Syracuse to all the way down to New York, upstate New York. Anyway, to the city. But I guess what I'm saying, what I think that we're going to see is movement.
Someone needs to hit the reset button there on the president, I think. And, of course, that was as interesting as his trip to Washington's Taqueria Habanero earlier in the day.
Don't jump.
Don't jump! Why does he keep saying that? I mean, of all the strange catchphrases, that one really takes the cake. Thankfully, at least Vice President Kamala Harris avoids repeating meaningless sayings that don't make sense. But again, I repeat myself.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, you know?
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
What we can see, what we believe can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
And by the way, how happy did Bill Clinton look in that last shot there? Hey, I mean, look at him. Wow. He can't believe his luck. He's
Are we sure he's still with us?
I'm not sure, Rita, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot more where that came from, too. And this is where the Democrats, I mean, this is a lot of fun, but the Democrats have a real problem. I mean, Kamala Harris may want to be unburdened by who we once were or whatever, but she is not unburdened by polls or reality. The fact is, Americans, by and large, don't like what they see when they see Kamala Harris. Her net approval rating is underwater by about 12 points, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polls. And only around 40% think she is doing a good job as vice president, which frankly isn't that hard a job. Now, given that no one really expects that if Joe Biden wins another term, and declarations aside, I still think there is a big question mark over whether or not he actually winds up running at all. A vote for Biden is also a vote for Harris. This is why spoiler candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. is so interesting. Half of what he says is kind of bonkers, but his warnings about the death of freedom and dissent in the U.S. should absolutely be heeded. And he could also wind up being the spoiler for a Biden presidency, or re-election rather, because past serious primary challengers have proven popular enough to throw incumbent presidents off their game, according to Time magazine. Former California Governor Ronald Reagan in 1976 primaried incumbent President Gerald Ford, who got the job only when Richard Nixon resigned. Time magazine continues to note that Senator Edward M. Kennedy, RFK Jr.'s uncle, primaried Jimmy Carter 4 years later. And in 1992, actress Pat Buchanan tried to take out President George H.W. Bush. All of these challengers failed, but they exposed intra-party divisions that helped make each incumbent a one-term president. Indeed. To put it another way, Joe Biden has all the advantages of incumbency, but winning an election will be an uphill battle. And we all know how well Joe Biden goes when he tries to climb things.